One. What's up, everybody? Ruben here, a part of the Ruben and Jessie podcast. Jessie, where you at?
Jesse here.
Jesse is not feeling too well today, but that's all good. He's gonna wake up when we talk today.
Hold on. I'm feeling fucking fabulous, Ruben. Don't get it
Bullshit,
twisted. When the
bullshit.
mic is on, the J-Man is here to play. Did I just give myself a nickname? Yes, I
Yeah, the
did. What
J
is
man.
going on, everybody? Welcome to the Ruben and Jesse podcast. We are here and we are ready to rock and roll.
There you go. We woke him up, folks. We woke him up. All right, so Jesse, what's been going on, bro? It's 2021, first episode of 2021. We're here. Like, first, how was your holidays? I know a lot was happening, brother. Share with the folks what's going on, man.
Shit, man. Shit. Well, yes, the first 2020 did not go out without a fight. There was a boatload of family stuff that had occurred on my front, right at the end of the year. Um, it was a. I'm sure we will find another time to talk about it. Some of those things are still in transition, so I'd rather speak on them once everything is, finalized and clean and good to go. But what I will say is that it was a humbling experience, still is a humbling experience,
Mm.
and brought great amount of insight and particular to give a little more context. Uh, there have been some health issues at no shortage of that this year. Health issues on the family front, and it's been a challenge to navigate. But we're still here, we're still rocking, and moving forward. And so coming into the new year, man, it's just, I I feel as if here's an opportunity to you know, take all the blind sides and all the lessons of 2020 and bring that into this year in ways that, one, capitalizing on all the opportunities we have in front of us,
Mm.
and making the most of it. Obviously, we've started our blogs. Obviously, we've started, I'll be starting my YouTube journey this week. You've already, put out a ton of content there. We've launched our coaching businesses. We're in full-fledged mode, and just increasing production is never necessarily an easy task,
Mm-mm.
especially when it's in realms you've never played before. I've never wrote blogs for myself. I've never recorded videos for myself in this fashion. So there's a lot of respect for the process and patience required, which I
Mm.
don't necessarily always have.
Same.
Um, so it's been a challenge, but I gotta say, to anyone who listens to this podcast, you guys are a really big motivation
Mm.
for, at least for me, why to do this, because to
100%.
see to see how the viewership is growing, I remember, like, especially if you look back when we first started, we had maybe like,
Three or
you
five
know,
downloads per
three or
episode.
five downloads, 3 or 5 downloads an episode. Like an episode would get like 3 or 5 downloads, and then maybe we'd get like 10 downloads, and we're like, whoa, like 10 people checked out our shit. And I remember just seeing January 1st, we had 45 downloads, like on day
Just
one.
on
And
one
that was,
day.
we didn't even release an episode that day. And I was like, wow, like people are choosing to spend their time on January 1st to listen to our shit. I was like, fuck yeah, man. Um, so it is giving me great confidence in knowing that, hey, more people like this shit. People want more of this shit. So how can I get, creative and and produce more and show different, sides of myself and of ourselves and stuff like that. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for 2021. I think this is
Same.
this is going to be a great opportunity to expand our mission and our vision for ourselves and for what we want to create in this world. And only God knows that we need more of that right now.
Hell
So
yeah.
let's get out there, man. How about you? How you doing?
Great, man. I obviously you've seen over the course of the last week, I've been like just pushing out content. I don't know. I just got hit with a wave of creative energy, and I was just like, I'm riding with this. I'm gonna ride with this. I'm not gonna ignore it this time. I'm just gonna go full-fledged, all out. As soon as I got my studio light and I started building out my little video studio, I really just was like, I'm gonna stand here and make 3 videos in one sitting. Bam, I did that, released all of them in a week, mostly to not get lazy. Because I was like, oh, if I know I have 3 episodes just like kind of just sitting there, I'm going to get lazy and be like, oh, I have enough. But the editing process, as you said, can be challenging. It can require an immense amount of patience. So I was like, I'd rather have like 3 or 4 edited so that when I do start releasing them once a week, which I'm gonna starting this week, my first episode is gonna be coming out Wednesday, January 6th, and then ongoing is gonna be every Wednesday, January 6th. But I already have like 4 episodes in the bucket, and I'm just gonna edit and put them scheduled for release, so they're all scheduled and ready to go. And it's been very nice to just, as soon as I get an idea, I've been using my phone to just like let me jot this down.
Hmm.
Wednesday, I went into a float tank, bro, and I had boom 5 episode ideas throughout that whole float tank. As soon as I got out the float tank, I grabbed my phone, I jot them all down, just like thoughts that would just come in. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I have to start doing that. So now, like most people would say, be away from your phone. I've been closer to my phone because of like, if as soon as I get an idea, I have to write it down because then I'm sitting here and I go to Karina. I'm just like, I had an idea to make a video and I lost it. And then she'll just like, well, what were you thinking about? And she'll kind of like walk me through, and I'll be like, ah, I got it again. Um, but yeah, like this creative force just like smacked me, and I'm still riding that wave. I still feel super creative. Also, not having work for a week definitely helps a lot because I'm not like bombarded with just the busyness of work in your head. So it's allowed me to really like express those sides of myself and really just figure out ways to like share it with people as well. So I've been like sending it to individuals like, hey, can you help me share this? Whether that's a friend, a family member, like, oh, I think this will be useful for you. And it's not being scared anymore. I used to be scared of that. And I think something I learned towards the end of 2020 or all of 2020 is just like we have the power, and that comes from this episode and people have been listening, just as you said. But there's something about just like, and this is what I learned from work really, is like whatever you say and do, someone's always paying attention. And even if my message gets across even to one person, is that not worth it enough to make sure
Hmm.
that, oh, that one person was actually listening and used what I said, shared, whatever. I don't know what I did in that video, what I expressed, but maybe it really helped someone out. And I noticed that through my work where there's something that a student of mine, I was talking to him one to one, something I said on week 1. I didn't even know any of them,
Yeah,
right? We were just
sure.
just all meeting each other. And I said something during a closeout of a day. I was just saying like I say like little inspirational messages for them to leave with for the weekend. And the kid really like 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 shared it with me again, like right before we came into the holidays. I was like, holy shit, that was like 18 weeks ago, because we go by weeks in my job. I was like, you were paying attention. So it really like set that little, I don't know, that idea in my head that, hey, whatever you're putting out, like someone's paying attention, even though they might not, we say always on this episode, please guys, reach out to us, let us know. And they do and they don't. And then one of Ashley's friends, my sister Ashley, one of her friends reached out to me and was just like, I love all the stuff you're doing. I've been listening to your episodes. I've been doing that. I was just like, oh shit. Like, you don't really know,
Yeah,
but there are people listening. And I was just like, oh shit. Like, I have a gift. And if I'm not sharing it, that's funny enough. And we can kind of delve into that and I can get into deeper because we haven't had this discussion about on my birthday, when I did that. I talked about it on today's episode, the animal spirit card deck. And what came up for me a lot that during that, when I was reading all those sections, was that like, you need to share your voice more, you need to be more like ahead, you need to like, all that keeps coming up over and over and over again. And I'm like, there's something going on here that keeps repeating itself and
yeah.
showing itself to me, for me to start sharing and being unapologetic, or not being afraid, because I still have a
Sure.
sense of fear with sharing these ideas and these things that I have inside of me. So that's how my 2020 ended, with that stuff, and just really being a beacon of light for a lot of people this year. And that includes my family. Like, there's certain things I want to do, and we've talked about this, that I want to help certain people in my family really step out of their own shadows and to really like express their gifts, because I'm like, you have all this beautiful stuff, but like you're allowing all the negativity to really take over versus your actual gifts. So
Yeah.
that's really how 2020 was like coming to an end. All these like messages I'm like getting, and like receiving, I'm just like, I can't accept this, I choose to accept this, and just, run with that baton, uh full steam ahead, you know what I mean? So starting
Absolutely.
2021 strong.
Absolutely. Yeah. Similarly, I'm having the same sort of breakthroughs on the not being afraid anymore
Mm,
to put stuff out there, because for me it comes from a place of almost necessity.
mm,
uh, because I think the fear in the past was, the threshold was like, oh, what if I say the wrong thing? Or
mm,
like, what if, like, who am I to talk about this? Who am I to say this? But what 2020 really showed me was just like, yo, a lot of people don't know the shit you know. Like,
for
actually, a
real.
lot of people don't know the shit you know. And it's cool. Like, it's cool to have humility, and it's cool to know that there are people who are um, more advanced than you in certain areas and in certain topics, and are able to, articulate them better and to share them in a different way. But that's the thing; it's a different way, and I think I am starting to really find my own voice in this world. And I mean, you can say esoteric, like in this entire world, I'm starting to find my own voice. But I think really in the realm of what some would say personal development, fitness, health, wellness, all those things, I think I'm starting to find how I can reach people, how I can connect people.
Mm,
And it's only going to be through the process of doing that voice is going to get refined. For example, like I'm editing. Before we jumped on this call, the first thing I said to you was like, "Bro, my first video is gonna be shit." I was like, "That video is gonna be shit, bro." And I spent literally all day, banging my head against the computer screen trying to fix it, trying to edit this thing. And yeah, it came out nothing. I want to say it came out nothing like what I wanted to. I mean, visually, I think it's pleasing. The audio to my standards is trash, but I know why. Like, I didn't set up the mic properly. Um, uh, the amount of time I spent editing it was like almost the entire day, which didn't really need to be the case. And there's just a lot of shit that, like, I know I'm not gonna like about it. I didn't like how I necessarily communicated all the points and all those things, right?
oh yeah.
But the way I see it is um, like, our good friend Tony, what he likes to say, like, it's all research and development. It's all R&D. Like, this is all an R&D phase. It's all like, put it out there, see how you do, come back. You don't learn how to put someone in a chokehold unless you're fucking putting someone in a chokehold. You fail 100,000 times, and then you finally figure out how to put someone in a
That's a
chokehold.
good jujitsu reference. I'm just going to say for the folks that Jesse is not out there putting people in chokeholds.
I am not put out there putting people in chokeholds. It's
Yes.
not what I do.
Yes.
But if you meet me on the mat, I wouldn't mind giving it a try, unless you do jujitsu a lot. So you'll probably destroy me. Anyway, um, uh, but yeah, so what I'm noticing is, like, I'm just gonna have to continue to put content out there, continue to experiment, continue to attempt things, and know in my heart of hearts that it's gonna reach the people it needs to, and we're gonna work with the people we need to. And also, just from like a creative pursuit, like, I totally resonate with what you're saying. Like this, one of the biggest problems I found within myself in 2019 and still in 2020, still dealing with this a lot in 2020, which was I was consuming so much content
Mm,
to the point where I was like, where is my voice? Like, where is my creativity? Where is my ability to, um, you know, because there's so much you learn from doing, and there's so much you learn from teaching,
right.
and sharing with others. We have that all the time where like I've definitely had this a lot where I'm sharing something with someone else and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even realize what I just said. Like, I didn't even realize that those things were connected until I spoke it out loud and said it to someone else. And
Right.
same with writing, like when I was writing for the Czech Institute, there were many times where I was talking about dense topics, and it was through the process of writing that I was like, oh, this makes more sense to me. Like, oh, that's an interesting way of putting it. And that's became true for me. Uh, uh, and then that's when I started pretty much just being like, oh, why don't I do this? Why don't I do this for myself? And then there's also that fear of like but who's gonna listen, who's gonna watch, who's gonna pay attention, but like everyone goes through that. Like no creative is ever like, I'm gonna have 100,000 people listen to this, today. You're gonna have to put out tons of content that no one's ever gonna watch,
Right.
like you mentioned, like the Lewis House video, like how many
12
people were
years
watching,
ago.
but who was watching that 12 years ago? No one. I didn't even know that existed, and I
Same.
know Lewis House for a few years. So it's like you're gonna have to put out content that's gonna be whatever. You know who's a great example that that I kind of was the one of the motivating charges? Actualize.org, right?
Of course.
Um, yeah, and anyone who doesn't, go check out their shit. Go check out his shit, Leo. But I do warn you, you might have a mind fuck. Like, and click on any video, you might have a mind fuck because that guy goes really deep. But if you look at his older videos, you look at his videos now, it's bad quality. His ability to speak in like in full, like he doesn't cut his videos. You know what I mean? He speaks just like in one, and it's perfect, dude. Like the way he communicates, this motherfucker puts a lot of time into preparation for his videos. If you look at his videos from like 10 years ago, they look terrible. Like there's one of him in like a black button down in the middle of like a kids park. And I'm like, dude, you look fucking crazy. You know what I mean? Like
No,
this
I have to see
pasty
that.
bald guy. And I'm like, yo, this guy, and he's like talking about like really deep esoteric topics, but you hear him and he's doing lots of like umming, lots of like fake smiling, and like being Mr. like cool positivity. And if you watch over time, if you watch one video from year to year, you watch the evolution of him and how he
Mm.
communicates and how he speaks. But that takes time. You got to put that effort in, and you can only learn and get better by doing so. Um, yeah, man, I'm totally excited to take this, to the next level.
Yeah, and I always say I appreciate those first few people who actually like sit and listen. They click on your link or
Mhm.
your podcast or whatever. I mean, podcasts you can't see like how many views or whatever a person's getting, but on YouTube you can, right? So like, they only see 10 views. That may, for some people, it's just like, oh, like no one really watches this person. Why should I kind of idea? But they decide to like go in and just be like, I want to hear what this person has to say, whether I know them or not. Funny that you bring that up because like I remember before I left to China, um, I had I had a YouTube channel and I was pumping out content because I literally had nothing better to do. And one of my videos, I was just going through the page because I'm subscribed to my own page. Funny enough, but I like to see like that historical reference of like 5 years ago. 5 years ago, what was I doing? And I saw a video, and I was like, "Holy shit!" It has like a few hundred views. And I didn't do anything. I just posted that 5 years ago. It was something on like 12 rules of something about relationships or whatever. I forget. I'll share it with you after this, but and if folks are interested, I'll find it and put the link in the bio. I think I unlisted it though. But I saw that, I was just like, holy shit, I put that out, and I started watching, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. Like, absolutely horrible. Like, the sound quality is so bad because I'm outside. So like you hear the wind, you barely hear me talking. I was just like, what are these people watching? Like, it's so bad. Compared to like, the quality of content I'm putting out. I know I'm rusty in my latest videos, but like I was like, man, if I kept that going, who knows what a if I kept the consistency, who knows where I would have been right now. So I wish I never stopped, but that's okay because I get to start again now and just really like look back at those and be like, hey, I can maybe the content that I made back then, I can reinvent that content with the new
Yeah,
ideas I have because we
absolutely.
constantly learning. So it's like this interesting like constant motion that we're going into when we do these things. So I'm gonna send it to you just so you can have a good laugh.
Yes, yes. No, I love it, man. Absolutely. And, we're talking about this because I think 2021 is definitely a year for you, the person who's listening to this. Like this is your year to shine, man. Like this is your year to whatever that means to you, whether you're an artist, whether you're a painter, whether you're a singer, a dancer, a scientist, whatever your creative outlet is, and whatever boundaries you're afraid to push, push them hard this year because this is with all that's transpired, this is an opportunity for new voices, for different perspectives to come on board and bring new solutions to the table, bring new ways to connecting to people. Uh, you know, it, there's a there. This is a time for a new generation of creatives.
Right.
Who see things very different than maybe things have been shared or seen in the past. And sure, there's people like Lewis Howes, there's people like Joe Rogan, there's people like I don't know Kyle Kingsbury, Aubrey Marcus. Like you could go down the list. There's tons of people out there who are sharing really awesome, incredible things. Um, and they have their people, but you definitely have your people. You definitely have the people that need someone who looks like you, who talks like you, who acts like you, who knows what you know, who
Mm.
speaks in the metaphors and analogies that you like to speak in, that listens to the kind of music you like listening to, whatever it is. There are people for you, and uh, uh, and this is your year to own that, own your creative spirit. Get out there and share what you got, show what your mama gave you, as they say.
Yeah, and it's funny because I had a friend many, many years ago. He mentioned like a line to me, and I don't remember it exactly what he said, but it goes something around the lines of like, and I was talking about like creating content. That's when I first was getting into it. I was probably like 21, 22. And I was like talking to him about this video I had made. I hadn't released it because I was just like, oh, there's so many videos very similar to it. And he's like, bro, just release it. He's like, just because you're talking about the same thing doesn't mean that you have an audience. That audience that person's getting is that person's audience. But maybe people just like to listen to your type and the way you have that message, express that message. You do it different than that other guy. That other guy they probably don't connect with, but they connect with because like you said, they look like you. They probably love the way you speak. Maybe the analogy you used was different, so they enjoyed your analogy much better. They like your energy on camera. Whatever that is, they'll like you better. So like you will find your people. You just have to keep putting out the
Yeah,
content that like we mentioned. You put out stuff, you see what works and what doesn't, and then you focus on the things that work, and you keep doing that until eventually you build your empire, your 1,000 true fans. The Kevin Kelly article. I don't know if you've ever read
yeah,
it, but it's a phenomenal article. And that's the way that we,
yeah.
hopefully we can make it where we can just do this for a living and share this kind of work and really help out folks out there.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, like, do what your heart is calling you to do. In the sense that, if at this level, are we putting out content because we want to build a business, we want to build a following, we want to attract clients to our coaching services? Absolutely. But but there's other ways to do that. There's ways outside of creating content to make that happen, and we sure as hell will take advantage of those ways as well. But uh, the content, at least for me, is a labor of love. It's like
Mm,
I want to be able to synthesize ideas and thoughts and things that I find impactful, and put it in put it in a encapsulate it in a format, whether it's taking all these ideas and putting them into a blog and then turning that into a video message, whatever it is. That's a labor of love, because uh, I'll never forget the lessons that I wrote about. All the
right.
things that I write about, I forget about what they mean to me, and why I wanted to convey that thing a certain way. And like when I see other articles or other blogs, I see what people miss. I see like, oh yeah, that like, yeah, absolutely, you need to eat organic food, but what else needs to be talked about there for someone to actually change their behavior and start eating, in alignment with their body and with their health and with nature. There's a lot more to it than just like go get organic food.
Right.
Um, and so to be able to bring that to the table in my own way, in my own version, is important to me, and exciting to me. And like I said at the start of this, is like I got pretty tired of just consuming content all the time.
Right.
It's there comes a point where like it inverts itself and it becomes exhausting. But except now I'm super stoked to taking content, because
Right.
now I'm like, oh, I'm going to read this book because I want to write an article about the lessons I learned from here, or I want to bring this into a video, or I want to
Right.
bring this into my coaching practice. I want to. So
Exactly.
now the books maybe I wouldn't have read in the past because I thought I knew something, or I thought it was whatever. Now I'm more interested because I'm like, well, maybe this book isn't going to resonate for me, but maybe there's something in here that if I wrote about it or talked about it, it would resonate with another person. So my view of consumption of content um, is changing dramatically after choosing to come on board in this way, and it becomes a lot more fun. It becomes a lot more gratifying to
Exactly.
read, to listen to podcasts and shit like that, because you're like, how am I gonna alchemize this into my own thing?
Yeah, and you're your own person, so you're like having it, you're taking not only your personal experience, this thing you're reading, listening to, whatever, and all your historical references as well. So all the other books that you've read or all the other things that you do in your life, and you kind of, like you said, you kind of create alchemy, and like you put these things together that no one else can do because they don't have your same experience, or they're not maybe reading the same exact formula of books, right? Like I was reading Mark Manson's like top books, his favorite books of 2020, for instance, and he said he has like a formula. He reads one philosophy book, nonfiction book, and then a fiction book, right? So he has a formula, and I'm like, oh well, the way he writes or his ideas, the way they're formulated, is because of the order in which he reads his books. So he's putting all these ideas and creating the structure here. Well, what if you change it up and you're the kind of person that's like, I'm gonna read nonfiction, and that can include science, philosophy, psychology, blah, 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 a fiction book, and maybe a science fiction book. I don't know, right? But like your version, or that person that does that and that's their formula, they're coming out with a variety of ideas, right? Like I know you probably don't game as much as me, but I'm a gamer. So even when I'm reading books, like I think back to characters that I've gotten to follow along on a journey, or I think about an anime I watched when I was a kid, which is, a lot of people probably thought those things were a waste of time when I was growing up. I mean, they always told me like, "Oh, you playing games? Like that's a waste of time." And I'm like, now that I'm older, I'm like, actually, it wasn't. Like I actually took lessons from watching those things or playing those particular games. So I have my own little alchemy of when and folks, if you see that video I created on January 6th, you'll totally see that in full-fledged action. Like I took something that I grew up with as a child, a specific cartoon, and I was just like, well, this fits in this narrative so well, And you'll see why. I won't spoil it for folks, but I think that there's something beautiful about that, and more people need to do that, where they're like mixing in all these things. And Chase Jarvis, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a famous photographer. He talks about like how we're all hyphens, and that's his thing. He's like, he's like, I'm a photographer, podcaster, father, dan, and it keeps going, right? Like you hyphenate and you hyphenate, because we're all doing that now. Like back in the day, yeah, you specialize in something. Your father was a farmer, guess what? You were going to be a farmer too. But now that's not the case. Your father's a farmer, you can bounce out, head into the city, become a tech genius. You're muted.
You could be a drag queen,
You could be a drag
whatever you
queen.
want.
Right. And I think that's the age we're living in. There's also, like, on the other side of that, there's so much like people are scared of that. At least here in America, right? There's too much opportunity. I know a lot of people may not think that, because 2020 has put a wrench in a lot of our systems, but there's so much opportunity to do these types of things out there, because that's what we've created as a American society, is this idea of
And
opportunity.
the thing is like, well, what else do you have? Well, like, what do you have to lose now?
Right.
Like, what do you have to lose if 2020 fucked you in the ass? Then you might as well do exactly what you want, because
Right.
if it didn't teach you anything else, it should have taught you that you never know what the fuck's gonna happen. You don't
Right.
know what the fuck's gonna happen. You know, and the thing you felt so secure in about February the 13th, 2020. A month later, you're in a totally different world.
Right.
So if you feel fucked by the year, and you're victimizing yourself, and you're sitting on your couch, or you're complaining and wishing the government treated you better, or someone treated you better, all those things are valid. Don't get me wrong, it's all valid to feel how you feel. And what are you going to do about it? How are you going to come out of this? What's important to you? What's actually important to you? And how are you going to take charge of that? And that doesn't mean you have to get out there it doesn't necessarily mean you have to get out there and put out content, or shout your voice into the world. That may mean that you build a garden in your backyard, that garden you always wanted to build for yourself, or you take that road trip you always wanted to take, or you decide to spend more time with your family than at work, that you have in the past. Whatever it is, whatever that means to you, to live life more on your own terms, versus someone else's, I think is one of the most important things that we have to harness in 2021 as a society, as individuals.
Not only that, but something I saw that was really interesting when I was going through LinkedIn, because that's kind of where I've been living a lot in the past few weeks. But it was funny, like a person, I don't know, it's like one of those authors that I follow. I forget who it was. It might have been Simon Sinek, but they were like, we need to scratch the idea of like being with a company, because obviously they don't last forever. Like we think they do, right? Because we live in America, it's all about growth, 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 growth. But one day there's going to be companies that are not going, these companies may not exist, and something else will take over, right? Just like, think about during the steel businesses and those conglomerates, and how the government came in and was like, nope. And then,
Nah.
like they were like, nah, MySpace became, I don't know what it is now. It still exists, but it's not to the caliber that it once was. But it was like, instead of following, if you're not someone who's a leader, because I don't think, a lot of people probably listening are like, I don't want to fucking do my own thing. I just want to kind of just live a regular, normal life. I don't want to be a leader of anything. That's too much responsibility. That's valid. There's people that are like that out there. And I think that those kinds of folks that don't want to take a leadership role or anything like that should find a leader that they just want to follow. So this person was saying, like, in the article, they were like, hey, instead of following a company which may not last forever, how about, humans don't last forever, but at least what if you found someone who you really respect, who's a leader, and you just follow them and help them on their mission? And that's okay as well. Like, just, entrepreneurial spirit, that's a huge thing. It's been like, if you go all over social media, it's like a huge thing. And a lot of people want to do it. But I know even Gary Vee says it. Not everyone's meant to do it. Not everyone has that ability. And what happens when you're 40 years old and you're still trying to make your app a big success and you're like, well, it's already too late. You have 2 kids, a house, you got things to pay for, you got responsibilities. So where's the sacrifice that you have to make? Maybe it is finding a leader that you can follow and someone that you're like, I respect what this person's doing with this company, and I'll follow them wherever they go because I respect them and their values or whatever the case may be. So people got to think. I think like moving forward, we got to take a different perspective on how we've been doing things. I think 2020 was definitely like the way we've been doing things has been wrong, and we need to innovate on how we do these things. I also was reading an article about the 40-hour work week and how that might not be a thing moving forward. A lot of companies are going to start implementing other things, whether that's maybe a 4-day work week, or maybe that's a work week that requires you to take different days off. Not requires you, but you get to choose what works for you and your schedule to make sure that you can produce the quality work that the company needs for whatever company you're working for. So there's so many things in the air right now. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling optimistic about where things are headed. And I think what we're doing is hopefully can find some wedge in these areas to support this, because we already have these ideas, right? So it's like there's so much happening, man, and it's like a lot of ideas coming into my head that still need to be flushed out. But I think 2021 will. It's not going to be an easy year. A lot of people are like, "Yeah, 2020 is over." I was like, "Well, now we got to deal with the repercussions of what happened in 2020." So guess what? It's not going to get easier. It's actually may even get harder for a lot of people here. So it's just like, how can we help people build resilience and shift their perspective and be like just like you said, like, hey, I this happened for me, not to me. What can I do now? Like, what's the next step? Where do I need to go now? What's my creative, or whatever I have that exists within me that I can produce and help other people, and then, in essence, make a money event like down the line. So we have a lot happening moving forward, I think, and it's going to be a beautiful blooming over the next 2 or 3 years that we're going to see. It's going to take time, though. You know.
Amen to that, brother. Amen. Well, I think that's a perfect place to close out. I think that's a perfect place to let the people go. Any final words, any final wishes for the people to hear as they navigate their lives through this 2021 era?
Listen to our podcast.
Yo, I couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. No, in all seriousness, yo, 2021, we have no idea what's about to go down.
Word.
We have zero clue about how things are about to unfold in this world. And if you think you have a clue, just get rid of that, because you got no idea. Let's all just be honest here. Let's take our fucking panties off, sit here naked for a second and just accept that we don't know what the fuck's about to go down. But what we do know is that we have an opportunity to face ourselves as people, as a community, and we're ready to ride this thing out. And you got me and Ruben here with you this entire fucking journey. Let's go to another year of fucking podcasts, to another year of new content, new information, new ideas. It's gonna be fucking glorious. So stay tuned for all the dope shit coming out on the Ruben and Jessie podcast. You have no idea what's in stores, and we're so happy to have you here. We're so excited to continue growing together, and we're gonna look back at these trying times and be like, wow, I can't believe we fucking did that. Right. So aho to 2020, aho to 2021. Let's rock and roll. Let's do some coke. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks,
Don't do
guys.
That. But let's get after it.
Let's get after it. Enjoy. No coke. I've never done coke, for the record. There are people I do know who have in my vicinity.
It's gotten late, folks, so we're going to close it out there. I'm going to shut Jessie off. But much love, folks. We're going to make sure that y'all have some amazing episodes coming out over the next few weeks. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Until next week, motherfuckers.